York's classic rock, Q1043.
The incredible Stephen Wright is with us here at Q104.3. And the last time we were together, Stephen, both of us were young.
Yes. I'm going to call the police and ask them what happened.
It was August 6, 1982, when you
Really?
when you performed on
I
the...
thought when I was here last.
No, that was when you were on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson
Yes.
for the first time.
Yes.
Which is that I'm certain that you remember.
Yes, I do.
Because it was such an extraordinary experience, because it was your debut, and you were then immediately asked by Mr. Carson to return the next week.
Yes.
Which was kind of unheard of.
Mind-boggling. Incredible.
So within about a week's time, you were famous.
Yeah, it was insane. It was like a fairy tale, really.
And I was thinking about that yesterday when I was reading an article about how the late-night TV shows are all in trouble because of, giant audience declines. That Gutfeld, which is a low-budget show, has more viewers than Jimmy Kimmel or The Tonight Show, which are giant-budget shows. And CBS is canceling the Late Late Show, so that's the end of that. But at that time, you could go on stage on one TV show and really literally have the whole country know who you were the next day.
Yeah, it was, I think cable was just coming in, like, in the late 70s when... So I went on in 82, there was like 3 channels. It was so powerful, and then Johnny Carson's show was so powerful. It was like, it was, like a top of a mountain, one peak of the mountain. And it just was unbelievable.
Yet your prior experience consisted largely of performing at a Chinese restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So what must it felt like to suddenly take that stage in Burbank on The Tonight Show?
It was surreal is the word, because I watched Johnny Carson since I was 16. I was 26 when I went on, and that's what I wanted to be if I could. It was my fantasy to be a comedian on The Tonight Show. So then to really be in there, it was just surreal. It was just surreal. I couldn't believe I was there. It was of course it was happening backstage. Everything was really happening, but I'm watching it from the outside also. One of those things, like, it's 2 views, in it and out of it. And I mean, the studio audience was 500 people. The studio audience was the biggest audience I had ever played, even if it didn't go on television.
Yeah, but the television audience at that time was about, what, 15, 20 million people or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. It was, I got so nervous that I wasn't nervous anymore. I became, like, numb. Like, in the movies when the sound goes off, they're still doing everything. I mean, the sound was there, but I mean, I couldn't get any more nervous, so then it just went off. But my friend Barry Crimmins, a fellow comedian who ran the Ding Ho Comedy Club in Inman Square in Cambridge, before I went out there, he said, your act is like a generator. You've been doing it. Just flick the switch. I mean, you're already doing what you're going to be doing. You just do it there. So that, like, he simplified it. Okay, I just have to do what I've already been doing. And then I tried to ignore the cameras and everything. I tried to play to the audience like I was in the club.
And then, of course, came your successful your Grammy-nominated recording career with the two albums. I Have a Pony, and do you know, Shelley, what the next album was called? I Still Have a Pony. I mean, you've come up with some really wild stuff from that fertile imagination of yours.
Those 2 things were like things I would joke about with my friend. Even the first one, I Have a Pony, was because I realized I was saying these jokes for years. Like, you don't say anything for years in your regular life. And I would say to my friends, imagine if I would, banged my head in a weird way, and I could only say one sentence, and the sentence I would say was, "I have a pony," because that was a line from one of the jokes. So then when I actually got to make an album a few years later, like an inside joke with my friends, I'll call it "I Have a Pony," like I went in the insane asylum. And then the big gap, and then you're going to make another one. I think, what are you going to call it? "I Still Have a Pony." You know, as a joke. These are like silly things, but then they became the real titles.
Well, you also have an Academy Award.
Yes, another freak accident.
Another freak accident? You have an Oscar. You
Yes.
have, I mean,
Yes.
Mr.
It's like I've committed a crime.
No,
you have an Oscar.
Mr. Wright, you have. By the way, I live high atop Mr. Wright's Fine Wine and Liquors in Manhattan. But I do. But you have an Academy Award, which
Yeah.
not very many people have.
That is strange because you only see that on television, the Oscar. So to have one in your house, it's like if you only see Neil Armstrong on the moon in slow motion, walking on the moon in that space suit. You only see him on the moon like that. So to have an Oscar in your house is like looking out onto your driveway, and Neil Armstrong is bouncing slowly down your driveway, up and down. There's no gravity. That's how weird it is. And I say an accident because we made it for HBO, the 30-minute movie. And we gave it to him. It was finished. The Appointments of Dennis Jennings, which I wrote with Mike Armstrong, directed by Dean Pariseau. And we turned it in because our thing was to do a 30-minute movie for them. But they decided to put it in the theaters first before they put it on. Oh, let's put it in Los Angeles and New York just to see, Then it became eligible. Oh, then it was eligible. Then it was nominated. Then it won. That's why I say an accident. We didn't even make it for the movies.
Well, where's the Oscar now?
It's on my table in my living room.
Of course.
So that was actually one of the first. That was probably the first,
Heavy, man.
kind of streaming movie to win an Oscar.
The first streaming movie to win an Oscar.
It really
is what she said.
was.
Oh.
Kind of.
Well,
Did
cable.
one of
Made for cable.
Right. I mean, come on. That's history.
Yeah, it was just. I have a lot of lucky flukes.
Yeah, like being in a whole, blank load of movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, a big movie career, too. Lots of movies.
Yeah, lots of movies.
Lots of successful movies.
Yeah, it's been a lucky guy.
Jim, he's more modest than you. This is insane.
She said you're more modest than me, which is insane. Should I go through a few of the movies? Let's see. Desperately Seeking Susan.
Love that.
So I Married an Axe Murderer. Natural Born Killers.
Oh, my second favorite movie of all
Is it?
time.
That's your second favorite movie?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
it goes on and on and on. He was with our friend Harry Shearer in Speechless. You were in Canadian Bacon with John Candy. I mean, lots of movies.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Jim, he's the guy on the couch.
Yes, I know. Everybody knows he's the guy on the couch.
Well, the guy on the couch. I mean,
There's
a whole generation that doesn't even know I'm a stand-up comedian. They only know me from that.
Yeah.
And when the movie came out, it didn't do that big in the theaters, but then it became a giant cult thing that I didn't know it had. I'm putting my gas in the car in Los Angeles. The movie's filmed, and a year later it comes out. Now, a year after that, so now it's 2 years after it was filmed. I'm putting the gas in, and the guy at another pump said, "You're the guy on the couch." I said, what? Because I'm not even connecting it to in the movie. Oh yeah, yes. But then that guy started the whole thing. Like I didn't know it. That movie's hilarious. Dave Chappelle is unbelievable.
But
He's a
just-
genius, that guy.
But just think of the impact that you have on people. For instance, I'm looking at a computer screen in front of me right now, and a Facebook message just arrived from a listener who writes, and I quote, I'm peeing myself in the car.
That has nothing to do with this show. That's the thing he should have looked at.
It's 8:15. So Stephen Wright is with us. Now, Stephen
Yeah.
Wright, as you know, is, well, we already went through the Academy Award, Grammy nominee, stand-up comic, movie and television star. But now we're going to shine the spotlight on Stephen Wright, author. His first book. Now, is it a memoir? No. Is it an autobiography? No. Is it a collection of witty observations of everyday life? No. It's a novel.
A novel.
It's a novel. It's called Harold. And it's not just any novel. The protagonist is a 7-year-old boy in the 3rd grade named Harold.
So it's written from the perspective of a 7-year-old.
Yes, it is. It's not as if you're looking at the 7-year-old go through the day.
It is the 7-year-old.
It is the 7-year-old. And
How did you stay 7 years old, Stephen?
and the thoughts of a 7-year-old are not rattling around in his head. No, they're flying around in his head and flying in and out of his head. And Harold, well, there's a lot of things that he loves. And there are certain, well, disappointments. And I started to read this book. And, Stephen, at the beginning, it struck me as being so weird that it was taking a little while. And then I turned the page and boom, I was sucked right in. Because it reawakened my 7-year-old mind. We've all been in the 3rd grade. So what Harold is going through, even though we may describe it differently, is something that we've experienced. When the girl who sits 2 rows in front of him is walking by his desk, and he takes a very deep breath because he's hoping to find out what she smells like. I understand. Completely.
Stephen, how did you stay 7 years old? Seriously.
How did you did it? You got into the 3rd grader's brain.
Well, I've always seen my comedy's based on noticing things and noticing, and then I notice like a child, but I get to use the words of an adult when I assemble these jokes. But it's really like all art is just from really noticing details, and that's what a kid does automatically. Like that, sometimes that wears off for people, but a kid is like, everything is, why is that? Why, everything is brand new, and it's just a natural questioning. And well, if that's like that, what if instead it was like that?
And Harold loves to ask questions. His teacher doesn't like some of the questions that he asks, but he honestly wants answers that he can't necessarily find. I mean, he's a very interesting kid, and when you think back at kids, like, he likes fights. Harold likes fights, fights, duels, fights to the death. He loves them. And you sit back and you go, well, kids, yeah. In the 3rd grade, my 3rd grade, this cute girl, Mary, talked me into having a fight with my best friend, George.
Wow.
She talked you into fighting your best friend?
Yes, because the winner could be her boyfriend.
That's hilarious.
Yes, and so then when I was the winner and George was crying, she went over and comforted George and got mad at me.
Oh, Mike, she's a sociopath.
Well, that's 3rd grade.
Did you do it because you liked Mary, obviously?
Yes.
To the point where you have a fist fight with your best friend?
Yes. Well, he agreed to the fist fight, too, because we both liked her.
He agreed to it.
Because we
the
both
power
liked her.
of women.
Even
7-year-old women.
So the winner got to sit with her at recess. That was the 3rd grade. So, it took me only just a little while before I was totally immersed in this book.
Oh, that's funnier than what's in the book.
Yet I understand that you wrote this over the course of many years.
Yes.
one sentence at a time.
Yes.
Yes.
You could say that about any book.
Yes, except that there would be months between sentences.
When I started writing it on Twitter, that's what happened. I originally was writing it. I'd write 2 sentences, and then not for a week, then another week, 2 sentences, then not, then 1 sentence, and then 3 weeks, nothing. But I did that for many months. Then I stopped, and I didn't write anything for a year. Then I added 2 more sentences. And then I thought, no, this should be a real book. So I didn't put it on Twitter anymore, and I just started writing it.
How long have you
Born
been?
from Twitter.
Yeah,
Look at that.
How long have you been thinking about Harold?
Not since like the Twitter thing. I mean,
I mean, it was just when you were doing that.
Yeah. See, I wrote an article for Rolling Stone magazine in the '80s. It was a fairy tale about how the beach was invented. And every few years I would read it just because I liked it. And then then one time I read it and I thought, I should write another story. And then I thought, okay, I'll write a thing about this kid. So it was because I read the other one inspired me to write something else. But why he was in the 3rd grade or 7 or anything, I didn't really think about it. I just started writing it. I didn't examine why this would be him.
Well, the book, Harold, will be in stores on May 16th. It's published by Simon & Schuster. You've got a very high prestige publisher there. And you can pre-sale, it's available for pre-sale, but you don't get it in the bookstores till May 16th. But you have 2 New Jersey performances, Stephen Wright, and advance copies of the book will be available for sale there at the performances, right? Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay, and you'll be signing the books after the show. And that'll be April 27th at Bergen Performing Arts Center in Englewood, New Jersey. Bergen Pack's nice.
Yes.
And, and then on the 28th at the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey. That's nice.
Yes.
And they
both
redid
of
it,
them.
Stephen. Yeah.
Those are good venues.
Yes, I've been to them. They're really nice. Great audiences.
And then you'll bring along a supply of the books, and people will be able to get them, and you will sign them.
Yes.
I'd like to get to know Harold a little better. We could have been friends in the 3rd
Yeah,
grade.
you fit right in. When you read Elizabeth, he crushed on Elizabeth. Did you think of Mary?
I thought of Mary. You see, that's why I said it took my brain into the 3rd grade.
That's what got you right in.
Yeah, because of Harold's crush on Elizabeth. And so that you can remember what it felt like to be a little kid and to be crushing big time like that. And that's not to say that this is like a juvenile book, because it's not. It's very much an adult book, but it's really, really creative, Stephen Wright. And of course, we all know that that's what you are, a creative artist.
Thank you so much. Well, I wanted to put in his head. I used Harold's head like a funnel, and I poured into his head what I think about life, religion and war and lawyers and love and all this stuff. Things that I couldn't do in a 2-line joke form. Mm-hmm. There were things in my mind that were not in that joke form. So that's what I put into his head, like my questioning everything.
Hey, Stephen, can this become a movie? Can Harold become a movie?
I can't see it as a movie. Could you? Maybe an animated thing, but not.
It would, because of the there's a special, unique way of thinking that would require some animation. I would
Because
think.
it's so in his head. It's so everything is so described what he's thinking.
Well, then an animated movie.
Yes. It could
Another
be
Oscar.
Could be an animated movie.
Another Oscar for Stephen.
Another Oscar.
Another Oscar.
Yes. Not Oscar the movie, Oscar the award.
For Harold, the movie. Okay,
For
so
Harold.
let's go through this again. Bergen Performing Arts Center, Englewood. That's on the 27th of this month, and the next night, the 28th, at the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey. Stephen Wright, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And congratulations on the publication of the book. Imagine that, Shelley, your first book, a novel.
Yeah.
Almost anyone who's famous can get somebody to make a deal with them for a memoir.
Right.
But a novel, and a top-notch publishing house.
Simon and Schuster.
That's another
Yeah,
big deal, Stephen.
that is amazing. Those are great people over there.
Yeah, well,
Sean Manning, excellent.
Well, congratulations
Thank
to
you.
you. It's time to check in with, well, it's past time to check in with Shelley with the
Thank
news.
you, Shelley. Thank you,
Thank you,
Shelley.
Stephen. Miss you.
It's 8:32, which means it's time for the 8:23
Yeah.
news here at Q104.3.
New York's classic rock. Q1043.